Are we really surprised that Mystic Mine actually ended up winning a YCS? I mean, I guess. Sure. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. So Mystic Mine tore through the YCS. Surprise Pikachu faces across the community. A few people are like, oh, yeah, it won? Oh, you're surprised about that? So here's the thing. I just overall looking at like the last few YCSs here, this has been like a pretty common trend here. Like you looked at, what was it, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series out of Chicago. You saw some Mystic Mine running around. Ultimately, Rivalry of the Warlords, Floodgates, ended up dictating that event. You pass forward over here to the European Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship. You saw some more Mystic Mine. You know, you haven't really, I'll be honest with you, you haven't really seen these Mystic Mine variants that pop up with actual Mystic Mine, you know, with the burn cards like Cauldron, you know, the way that we saw Mystic Mine burn showing up for a little while, till you fast forward to, you know, the event this week in Rio here, and a lot of people are like, oh, wait a minute, Mystic Mine Burn still exists as a deck? And I kind of think that's why a lot of people are genuinely just like shocked right now was, yeah, Mystic Mine is a troublesome card. It is one of the most unpleasurable experiences within the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But your next problem here lies, well, it wasn't Mystic Mine that actually showed up in another deck. It was Mystic Mine actually showed up in its own deck for once and kind of tore through the competition. I think that's... I guess it's like the biggest surprise here was people are aware of Mystic Mine, people are aware that, you know, Mine is a problem, yes, but it's in combination with these other cards where, you know, seeing a Mystic Mine in X matchup, like Sky Striker playing it, for example, you know, going into that matchup, you're pretty much prepared for Sky Striker, you know. If they see a Mine, you're like, okay, you know, you kind of got an idea that Tier Element players might be playing a Mine or two, and the next same thing with, you know, Sprite variants as well. You're aware of this, but I feel like acceptance and awareness of Mystic Mine Burn as a deck itself has just gradually... people feel like they is unaware, or it's kind of that scenario. You guys remember the YCS a long time ago where True Draco just came out of nowhere. I think it was Utah that just came out of nowhere and won the event. Well, it's because when people stop citing for these particular things, you look around, you're like, huh? Well, Mystic Mine showed up out of nowhere and did the same thing that I feel like True Draco did. It was in an event that players are aware of Mystic Mine existing within the confines of other decks, but when you see it creep into an event where it is within its own league, for example here, yeah, you kind of get caught off guard. Now, the event was 450 people. I'm not sure if this was one of the smallest YCSs. I also think it was capped. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I heard. So... are you surprised? No, you shouldn't be. Now, kind of, we talked about a majority of like the recap this morning when we looked at this event, but I'm still seeing like across case tournaments, you still will see Mystic Mine showing up as a random rogue deck, all right? Like, it's just how it is. You know, the deck literally has been dubbed the Jeff Leonard Special for so long at this point in time. And I saw, I think it was Jesse Cotton's take that, you know, at this point in time, players should be prepared for Mystic Mine. Now, whether or not you agree with that take or whatnot, I mean, if you're playing the game competitively, you should, I agree, you should be prepared with Mine, but that's if you're playing on that competitive level. You know, when you're looking at the game from a competitive scene, you know, you're going to be looking at it, you're going to go, okay, so Tier, Sprite are going to be the big things. You know, you're going to take a look at things within those decks. You're going to see that Mystic Mine is a tech choice. And pretty much everything in the meta is playing at this point. So to say that as a competitive player that you really weren't ready for Mystic Mine, yeah. I mean, it's once again one of those things. I am also at this point that, you know, if you get Mystic Mine, you're like, oh no. Over the, I got the chance to play Runic at locals, and in my first 2 rounds, I actually didn't activate Mystic Mine. It wasn't until I think round 3 where I had to drop down mine because Skill Drain wasn't good enough to handle the situation. And that's kind of like the thing that makes mine such a stupid good card, is because like your opponent literally can't do anything. Like no attacks effectively. All their monsters just become bricks. All right, like I don't need to tell you like how good Mystic Mine is. It's just right now I'm genuinely surprised by like just the community's reaction to like the unknown here. So what's the general consensus across the board as we head into the next couple weeks? Well, we're still on the cusp of a ban list, hopefully. The biggest indicator that I think people are looking at right now in terms of a supposed list, I think a lot of people are looking at post-Megatins for that. Actually, I would assume that this week would probably be about the week that we'd start getting reveals for the tins, right? Because it's usually 3-ish weeks out. Sometimes maybe 2 weeks before a product is released. So we should be ramping up into Megatin leaks, I would hopefully say this week. But if that ends up being the case and you start to see that info come out here, you can kind of start to see how a ban list might partially shape up for that. But I'm genuinely curious because there's still the whole saying right now that's like, so many players looking at Mystic Mine, they're like, yay, Mystic Mine is the TCG's equivalent to Max C. Whether or not you believe that to be a good thing or a bad thing, it is an interesting take, nonetheless. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you there. The fact that TCG players look at Max C versus Mystic Mine, I mean, there are people out here that are like, well, I don't want either in the game, which is perfectly fine with you. But I'm curious if Mystic Mine does not get hit on this next list, if that actually ends up being the case here. Like, if they confirm the theory that it is just our Max C, I mean, heck, man, they could go all the way and bring Max C back. We could actually equalize here and see things, but, Max C is like the TCG's baby. And we were kind of talking about this a little bit recently, too, that, Max C is great if you're playing behind in the game, all right? Like, you go first, you make a board, your opponent goes first, and as they're about to break your board, you slam down the Max C. That's like the time where Max C just feels amazing. You know what I mean? Because you've already set up your field, you're like king of the world, and then you got Max C. So whatever your opponent does to make your feeble little board break it, congratulations, you're drawing all these hand traps now in order to play the game. That's why I like it. Now, there's a lot of cases where, you can draw Max C as your 6th card. I mean, you can see that with modern era hand traps, too. Like, that's my other thing. It's like, oh, you draw over turn, it's the Ash. That's the problem with, like, hand traps overall, is it's always the 6th card that you need, all right, to stop it. So I also have heard a few people being like, the most Konami thing to do when looking at Mystic Mine here would be to ban Demise of the Land and Metaverse. And I think that's a hilarious take, because that's something Konami would just be like, hey, you guys want to keep Mystic Mine, right? We'll just take away all of the ways to activate Mystic Mine during the opponent's turn, because clearly that's the problem. All right, the fact that you can activate a field spell during the opponent's turn that devastatingly floodgates them and prevents them from playing the game. That's the issue, right? Clearly it's Demise of the Land and Metaverse that are the issues here, not the card itself that is creating this unfair floodgate scenario for the game, right? It's Metaverse and Demise of the Land's fault. I wouldn't be shocked. I'll say that. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if that's the approach that Konami takes to leave Mystic Mine in the game. Should they? No. Mystic Mine should probably go at this point. Am I going to be surprised if it doesn't? I mean, Konami's done stranger things on these lists. I'm not going to be surprised if Yata-Garasu moves to 2 on the next list, to be honest with you, because that's also a very Konami thing to do. There will be a point where you'll probably see 3 Yata-Garasus in the format, and you're just going to be like, oh, that's normal. I can't wait. So, overall right now, Mystic Mine, absolutely splendid showing this weekend. One step closer to getting rid of the card from the game. And you know what? Whether or not mine gets banned or goes, or, Demise of the Land, or, something else happens, it's gonna be very interesting nonetheless. It's just one more little hindsight into the brilliance of Konami. So guys, please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.